Hi guys and welcome back to From Scratch to Orchestra. With the two first episodes, you should have a basic understanding of what music is. In Western European music, there's a total of 12 notes, each equally separated by semitones. Some of these notes are arranged in scales because we consider that they sound good together. And these scales have a kind of a backbone we named pattern, which depends on the adjective of the scale. We studied all of these concepts with the piano. But if you don't play the piano, that you don't want to learn music theory for the piano, you might have felt a bit leave out that I use it that often. So now we are about to take things differently. Learning a language without being trained to read it nor to write in that language might seem a bit odd, isn't it? Music is actually a language, and you're about to really begin your journey to the full understanding of that language. So don't forget to subscribe to not miss anything, and let's get into it. It's a point where a lot of musicians are blocked. You start learning music, you're having fun, but you neglect the reading part of music theory. So you end up in situations where you can play your instrument pretty decently, but when it comes to reading, you're not even able to read a simple score. So please, pay attention to the following episodes and you'll see that actually with some training, that's not so complicated. If we take the piano and play something on it. The time is flowing from top to bottom and the pitch of the notes increases from left to right. Then, if you tilt the piano as so, now the time is flowing from left to right and the pitch rises from bottom to top. Now let's say that to each white key is given a line. We can see it's kind of messy, so instead we're gonna give half of them lines and the other half just blank spaces. We end up with something like this. And this has a name. It's called the grand staff. A staff is a set of lines and spaces, each representing a different musical pitch. And the grand staff is a staff composed of 11 lines and 10 spaces, covering 3 full octaves. So now, if we represent the same melody but this time played with circles that will stop on these lines, you begin to have something that should look a little familiar to you. What you had in front of you was almost a regular staff. But with this big number of lines, it's very complicated to know what line or what space represents what note. This is why we use clefs. Clefs are musical symbols placed at the very beginning of the staff, used to indicate the pitch of written notes. The most common ones are the G clef, the C clef, and the F clef. Each of these clefs has a center point. Center points can only be placed on a line, and the line it is placed on takes the name of the clef. So if we place the G clef here, if a note is placed on this line, we'll know right away that it's a G. And it's the same for the other clefs. But how do we know what G, what C, or what F they are? Are they high, low? We have no idea. To avoid these kind of thoughts, we put numbers next to the notes to indicate what octaves they're in. If I show you a keyboard, you can see more clearly how it works. To each octave is given a number, ranked from the lowest to the highest, each octave beginning with each C. If you play a note in a specific octave, the note takes the number of that octave. Of course, we don't use numbers all the time, but in certain cases, it's necessary to specify which octave you play in. For example, the notes that are the center points of the clefs we just saw are G4, C4, and F3. It will always be the case. So no matter if you play the cello, the flute, or any other instrument, if you see one of these clefs, you know directly where to play. So now you know how a staff works, what is a clef and how to use it as a landmark. But we're not going to keep that grand staff this way. We are about to divide it. If you play a song only using notes that are close to G4, why will you bother with the C clef and the F clef? That's why you can divide the grand staff in order to make things more convenient for you. It has been decided that there will be 5 lines by clef. So from the grand staff, you end up with 3 different staves. And by placing the clefs like that, they take the names treble clef, alto clef, and bass clef. Another clef is used in nowadays music and is called the tenor clef, but unless you play a very specific instrument, you don't need to bother with it. So now, just by logic, you should already be able to read 3 notes on those staves. The G with the treble clef, the C with the alto clef, and the F with the bass clef. And if you want to find another note, for example an F5, you start from the closest center point you know, which is a G4, then, as the note you search for is higher, you count the lines and spaces by going up the staff. A, B, C, D, E, and F. And in this way, you can find any note possible on any staff. But you might ask yourself, okay, but what about notes not included in the stuff? If we go lower, do we need to change a clef? And what about higher notes? Is there a clef that exists if we'd like to play higher? In these situations, the solution is to use ledger lines. If we needed to change a clef every time we want to play notes that are not in the stuff, it will be a nightmare. To avoid that, we use ledger lines. Ledger lines are lines that you can add above and below the staff. For example, you want to play the A minor scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but how do you play the last A? You add a ledger line above the staff, and then you place the A on it. And if you want to go below the staff, well, you do the same. You just have to place ledger lines below the staff. You can add as many ledger lines as you want, but in the case where every single note needs a ledger line, it makes the reading unpleasant, so you have other options. Either you can actually change the clef, it happens a lot with instruments having a high range of a note like the piano with the treble and the bass clef, or you can add written indications above and below the staff. There are written indications saying that what you see must not be played on the regular octave, and those written indications are called Ottava and Quindicesima. The Ottava changes the pitch of notes by an entire octave. If an Ottava is above the staff, it becomes an Ottava Alta. So what you see must be played a full octave higher, and otherwise, if the Ottava is below the staff, it becomes an Ottava Bassa, and it lowers the notes an entire octave. So this becomes either this or this. The same with the Quindicesima, but this time the pitch changes by 2 octaves. So again, now it becomes this or this. Okay, so you should be able to place any note on a staff now, right? Any note? Actually no. I still haven't explained to you how to write accidentals on the staff. On a staff, accidentals must be placed on the left of the notes. So for example, the G major scale goes like this, and the F minor scale goes just like this. With the F minor scale, the notes B, E, A, and D will always be flat. So the logic will say that we have to write a flat symbol every time there's one of these notes on the staff, right? But actually, there's the thing inviting us to do so, and it's called key signature. The key signature is situated just next to the clef. If you place an accidental on a space or a line here, it means that if a note is placed on the same line or space, it will be affected by the accidental you placed. So if you place a sharp on the F line, all the F of the music will be sharp, no matter their pitch. We can take the same example with 2 flats, one on the B line and the other one on the E space. Now every B and E of the music, no exception, will be flat. It's a very powerful tool, but there's a certain way to place flats and sharp in the key signature. We don't just drop accidentals randomly, but this will be the topic of another episode. So for the F minor scale, the key signature is like that. Then, if you write once again the F minor scale on the staff, it becomes this and not this anymore, because now every B, E, A, and D will automatically be flat. The tricky part is that you have to remember which notes must be flat while reading, but we get used to it with the time. The only way to cancel the effect of the key signature is by putting a natural in front of the note. For example, here you have an E flat. Then, to get rid of the flat, we place a natural in front of the note, and then your E flat becomes an E natural. But as soon as there's no natural in front of the note anymore, the E becomes flat again. We'll see in the next video that this rule is not true, but for now, just remember it that way. The key signature is also convenient to explain something else. If, for example, a song uses as a basis the notes that compose the G major scale, it means the song uses its key signature. So we say that this song is in the key of G major. So if a song is in the key of A major, it uses the A major scale, and if it's in the key of B flat minor, it uses the B flat minor scale. That's it for this episode. You learned everything about how the pitch is managed in a score. Next time, we'll learn everything about the rhythm. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Don't hesitate to ask me any question in the comment section down below, and see you next time.